We've got some more toxic friendships today, and I read through some of your comments on the last video of the subject, and it sounds like y'all have been through it too. I feel like we've all gone through a transition of maybe losing a friendship or not being close to someone anymore because of some toxic vibes, or you know someone who has. So keep sharing your stories in the comments. Leave them anonymous. I understand. They're personal. So leave them in the comments because I am checking them out. And we're boarding the hydration station, but this will shock you today because I haven't done this in a very long time. It's not water, it is caffeine. It's happening. It's much needed today. So tell me what is in your cup and cheers. I hope you're having a good day. Itchy. I'm very bright. Why? Oh. Hello? Okay, that's better. Whoa. Oh, that's so good. I might be taking a lot of these sips because I'm trying to drink it while it's warm, you know? Hot. Whew, that's still very hot. Lip gloss. I was friends with this individual since kindergarten and we were borderline inseparable, but every time she would catch feelings or get a boyfriend, I would instantly become dismissed. I hate that. Absolutely hate that. I'll go on a rant after. She would prioritize her time to where I was always an afterthought. When they would break up, she would run right back to me, leaning on me, constantly needing to hang out 24/7. This cycle would continue until she got another boyfriend.
Yes.
She did this all throughout high school, and after her senior year boyfriend and her broke up, she decided to go to the same college as me, where I assumed the cycle would continue. Halfway through our freshman year of college, I told her that I was not mad and that there was no bad blood, but the friendship was over and that was that. I continued with college life separate from her. To nobody's surprise, she reached out to me a few years after college to grab a drink. I accepted, thinking she was just trying to reconnect, only to find out 10 minutes later that another man had broken her heart and she needed someone to lean on to pick up the pieces. I never agreed to meet up again. I actually dealt with this exact same situation in high school, very much so. I think it happens more so when you're younger. I mean, I like to think so. I haven't dealt with that in my later 20s and 30s by any means, but all the time in high school. And I don't even know if it's intentional half the time. I think people get very excited about their relationship and that person becomes their world because you're young, and then, you know, your friends, you put them on the back burner, and unfortunately that affects friendships. Yeah, it's not a good feeling. You never want to feel like you're not a priority and you're only wanted when it's convenient for you. So yeah, definitely I lost some friends over that in high school for sure. It's not fun. And it's very annoying. Like, you can have a boyfriend and a best friend too. Just so you know. Because, you know what, that's negative. We're gonna stay positive today. I was gonna say something pretty negative. I finally realized what a one-sided and toxic relationship we had when she would call me to obsess over a guy she liked while I was literally sitting in hospice next to my dying grandmother, who had been like a mom to me. I'm sorry. She did this multiple times in the final days of my grandmother's life, briefly asking how I was doing, then brushing it aside to talk about her, even when I was still helping care for my special needs uncle who was also in his final days. Oh my God, you poor thing. I would justify it because I knew she was nervous and at least she had asked, right? I still ended up visiting her with a couple friends in New York a couple months later. That trip ended with me crying on a corner in Times Square for how she was treating me, and then us packing up, cleaning, then leaving her apartment and getting a hotel the last 2 nights of our stay. I haven't spoken to her since and my anxiety level has decreased substantially. Well, at least you know you did the right thing. When you leave a relationship or a friendship or even a relationship with a family member, I say relationship as a broad statement. I don't mean like partner, you know? If you leave that and you feel lighter, you feel happier, you know what I mean? Like a weight lifted off of you, you did the right thing. Like, that speaks volume. What are these people adding to your life? That's what you gotta ask yourself, no matter who it is. What energy are they bringing in? Is it negative? Is it positive? Do you feel good when you speak to them? It's hard. You gotta, you know what I mean? You gotta Trim the fat, as they say. Trim the fat of your life and snip some of these people off. Cut off. Itching my nose, I'm not picking it. Leave me alone. Wait, caffeine. Did you guys just hear that noise it made? That was so weird. I don't know if the mic's gonna pick that up, but it was like, whoa. I heard it. I found out that my best friend had slept with our other best friend's husband. Ew. While they were all on vacation together. She crawled into their bed in the hotel and went for it. My friend, the wife, woke up while they were in the middle. Oh my God, what do you mean? She was in the bed?
What do you mean?
Hold on. She crawled into bed with husband and wife, just snuck in there, pancaked her way right into the middle of them and just started going to town with him. What do you mean? Of course they're gonna wake up. I'd been making excuses for this friend's behavior for years. If she hooked up with someone's boyfriend or partner, it wasn't a big deal because they were unhappy anyways. I'm keeping my comments to myself. I'd even taken her side when she had hooked up with my ex-boyfriend when she knew I wasn't over him yet because our friendship was too important. Well, girl, that's on you because that's ridiculous to forgive her for that. It took this incident to open up my eyes to the years of toxic behavior I'd witnessed and been victim to. Fair enough. I haven't spoken with her since. I hope I never speak to her again. Yeah, I would never speak to her again. Like, does she get some kind of enjoyment of sleeping with people who are in relationships? That is not to say the men are not wrong either, though. Don't think I'm just brushing over that. Gross, disgusting behavior as well. Okay? I don't know how you thought you were getting away with that. Like, you might as well have asked her to join you at that point, in all honesty. We had been friends for 10 years since freshman year of college. She got engaged in 2019 and asked me to be her maid of honor. We started planning her 2020 wedding, bachelorette party, etc., and then the pandemic hit. She was already dealing with a lot of wedding stress and lashing out at those of us who suggested postponing events or at least cutting guest lists down. She became a complete lunatic and completely disowned any guests, many out of state, that didn't attend her wedding or her bridal shower. I had planned and paid for an entire destination bachelorette party, then replanned when postponed and replanned again. The party would now take place after the wedding. I reluctantly went through with attending the 200+ person wedding and immediately quarantined myself away from everyone afterwards. I'm surprised you were even allowed to have that big of a wedding. Venues weren't even allowing it over here where I'm at. Since vaccines weren't available yet, this was summer of 2020, I shared my concerns with flying out of state to a COVID hotspot and was hit with, quote, "You're my maid of honor. You can't do this to me." I tested positive for COVID the week of the trip, but was not having any symptoms, thankfully. She told me if I didn't have symptoms, I was being selfish and I had no reason not to get on a plane and get to her bachelorette party, and then she hung up on me. I called the hotel and sent a bottle of expensive champagne to her room and never heard from her again. We literally haven't spoken since. Oh, and she's a nurse in a hospital. So if anyone should be understanding of the pandemic and everything that was going on during the height of it, it would be a nurse in the hospital. You would think anyway. I can only imagine all the wedding drama that came through when the pandemic hit. I know a handful of people that had their wedding planned for 2020 that had to postpone, cancel, and had to make a whole bunch of changes. My sister, for one, had to make a change because couldn't happen. So she got married last April in 2023, was it? Yes, last April. She had to wait, you know? That is a smart thing to do. And I get the whole, did you have symptoms or not, but you don't want to spread it. And maybe they weren't. Over here, they were doing tests at the airport. You couldn't even get on a plane if you tested positive for COVID. No. I reached out to my friend on a Monday after a crazy weekend. She told me she had been in a car accident and was not working that week and wasn't doing well. She then told me that she tried to hurt herself and didn't want to live anymore. Well, obviously that's a terrifying text, so I called her about 10 times with no answer. my heart would be racing. I got so worried that I called the emergency mobile mental health service to go check on her. Good for you. She finally called me back right when I hung up with the service to tell me she was shopping with a friend. When I told her that because she never answered her phone, I sent the mental health service, she screamed at me for having betrayed her.
Betrayed her?
I'm sorry, I was concerned for your life. Turns out she was trying to get a rise out of me because I hadn't texted her that weekend. She's a lunatic. I felt so manipulated and blocked her from using mental health as a way to get at me. That's beyond, you guys. Like, that is beyond the point of forgiveness to me. I don't mess with that. If you want to start using that, and maybe they're young and naive, but that's not a joke. You don't mess around with that. You absolutely don't try to use that to get a rise out of someone. Insane. Insane behavior. Hold on. You already know. Need a little bit of gloss. This lighting, I'm confused. I hope it's working fine. Because it's showing up a little wonky over here. This? Hold on. We're gonna fix that right now. Because I knew that was the problem. Goodbye. Not today. Best friends since elementary school. It was a 15-year friendship. But as we got older, there were more and more restrictions placed on me. During our friendship, I'm sorry. Restrictions. In a friendship? What do you mean? There's no rules. She never wanted me around any new friends she made because she didn't want me to become friends with them as well. But it was always expected of me to invite her to any plan I had, and if I didn't, it would be a huge fight. The last straw for me was I started noticing that she would put me down and make jokes at my expense to guys either I was interested in or she was, mind you, she had a boyfriend. Going out, it became my job to make sure she didn't cheat and got home safely. Y'all need better friends. Eventually, I realized we stopped being friends years ago, but I kept holding on to that childhood friendship, even though we weren't the same people with the same mindsets anymore. That's hard. I make it sound easy by being like, cut people off, but it's not easy. I actually think losing friends could be harder than like a romantic relationship because it's just a very different kind of love. You know what I mean? It's a very different situation. But losing friends is extremely hard, especially lifelong friends that you grew up with since you were a kid. When that starts to shift and you might outgrow them and you guys might just go down different paths and you have different lifestyles and values, and it's really hard. I feel like we don't like give ourselves enough credit as humans that we have to go through those kinds of changes because it's not easy. It's very hard. Like, for being in a ponytail, why is my hair being so annoying? It took me a long time to realize how toxic my now former best friend was. She had misconstrued ideas on what makes a gay man, as in fashion, likes, etc. All stereotypes. She always commented how she was going to revoke my gay card. Why were you friends with this person? Mind you, she's straight. I'm gay. We got into a massive fight because I got tired of her telling me that I was a bad gay simply because I dressed comfortably, which is a t-shirt and jeans, rather than being fashionable. I lost my patience over these jokes, so I told her to knock it off and that I didn't like it. She blurts out, "Well then, our friendship is over. Say less, babe." At that point, I was so done that I said, "I'm fine with that," and walked away from her. That's not the toxic part. The toxic part was her texting me afterwards saying, "For this friendship to be over, you need to explain why you said this, did this, etc." And then proceeded to list every transgression I allegedly made or said over the course of our friendship. It was like she wrote down everything I did and was waiting to list it for this exact moment. I did not respond, but I blocked her on everything. Social media, emails, etc. Even my number has changed because she was giving my number to her friends to reach out to me to talk to her. I want nothing to do with her anymore, and now I'm much happier without her in my life. You know, I feel like that's the point of this whole thing. We need these updates. We need to know how you're doing after these friendships end. And everyone has said that they're happier, they're lighter, they're in a good place. Life has moved on ever since. You made the right choice. It was always for the best. Even if it's really hard at first, eventually you reach a point where you look back and you're like, ah, it was meant to happen. And I'm glad, a blessing in disguise sometimes. This really is fueling my soul. I can feel the energy going through my veins. After 20 years of being friends, we always kept in touch, visited each other in different cities, and remained close. After I got news of having a tumor in my breast, oh no, and a cancer scare, I told her I was having surgery via text. She never responded. And we had just exchanged texts the day before about catching up soon. I haven't heard from her. What? I haven't heard from her since, and that was 4 months ago. I texted her, called her, left messages asking if she was okay and that I was a bit worried about her. 3 months into no response. I recently contacted her sister to make sure she wasn't dead or in the hospital, and her sister said she's doing well and that she saw her on the weekend. It's hurting me a lot, and yeah, I'm being ghosted by a best friend of 20 years. She definitely wasn't there for me when I was at my lowest and I needed her, and she also didn't respond when I told her I was worried about her. Well, I'm just equally as confused as you are. Being ghosted is the worst, whether that's from someone you're going on a first date with, whether that's someone you're dating and you broke up with, or even a friendship, because you get no clarity, no closure, no understanding of the situation. You have no idea what happened. And after you tell her something like that, for her to just disappear, I mean, that kind of shows you something. Because a real friend, even if there was something wrong or anything like that, they would be able to communicate that to you. Because that is the mature and kind thing to do. Okay? I'm sweating. I can't drink coffee under these lights. I'm realizing that. Maybe that's why I never do it. Because I'm sweating over here. I had this toxic friend in high school who would drive me away from my other friends, insisting that they were just making fun of me. Okay. Then when I ditched my other friends, this friend would shame me for not having other friends. She would constantly embarrass me and push my buttons. A few months later in college, she offered to talk about my feelings. I was stupid and really believed she changed. She then had the nerve to say I chose to not have friends and to be abused by the president of a club we were both in, and who this friend secretly sided with and then tried to deny it in front of me. Ooh, I hate when people do that. Anyone who's reading this, if your friend is anything like this, constantly lies, pushes your button, and shames you for your problems or feelings that you have no control over, run. Couldn't have said it better myself. There's your advice. Yeah. I also hate that, you guys. I hate when people are like two-sided, where they're like, ooh, that girl, I hate that girl. But then when they're around that person, they're like, oh my God, hey, you're my best friend. Red flag. I'm just letting y'all know out there. Eyes peeled. You gotta watch out for that. I'm reading so much that my lips are dry. And I hate it. I became very close with a friend during college. We had a lot in common, a shared cultural background. Oh my God. Did I just eat a bug? Ew. I swear something just flew in my mouth. An overall very special friendship. This was until I started noticing that she didn't seem super happy when I had big accomplishments or wasn't available to celebrate with me. There would be occasions when she would give different versions of a story or anecdote to different people and then gaslight me about that ever happening. The last straw was when I found out, through a third person, mind you, that she would disclose to other people what I shared with her in private, including a very painful breakup that I asked her to keep between us. I confronted her about it, and in the end she did apologize, not without stating that she divulged things to acquaintances because she was worried about me. I accepted it, but realized it wasn't a sincere friendship, and I moved on. Not a great way to show you care. No, and you mentioned more than one thing in there that were red flags to me. You know what I mean? If you have good news for any of your friends, they're gonna be there to celebrate. Whether they're not there physically, like if they can't be, but they're happy for you. That's like red flag number one. Over the course of our 5-year friendship, I had 2 different boyfriends, and in both instances, she was always encouraging me to break up with them. At the time, I didn't really see how she was pushing me to be single. There's a fuzz. But now I realize she wanted me to spend time with only her. The betrayal came when I met the man who is now my husband. We got engaged fairly quickly, and my friend actually made a list of reasons why it was a bad idea to marry him. I married him in a small ceremony with only my family present, and when I told her we got married, she told me she could not tolerate that behavior in a friend and hasn't spoken to me in over a year. She had even moved to a small town during the pandemic to be closer to me, so now I still see her all the time and she won't acknowledge me or my kids or family. She even had the nerve to say that she would consider being my friend again when I got divorced. Since I don't plan on getting divorced, she's in for a long wait. Does she ever, like, what did your husband do? I get you're saying she did this for everyone, but it's one thing if your friend is saying you shouldn't be with someone because they see something toxic in your relationship and they're looking out for you because they care about you. But if it's like, oh, you just shouldn't be with them because I want you all to myself, that's like slightly creepy. Slightly creepy. We're not dating. We can still be friends while I pursue and build a life with someone. Weird. All right, guys. Whoa. Guys, I said that so weird. Give me your stories in the comments, and remember, of course, you can leave it anonymous because some of these are pretty personal, and I understand. But cheers. Hope you're having a good day out there. Stay classy, stay sassy, and I'll see you tomorrow.